Okay. Okay. Well, let's get started. All right. Okay, Ellen, it was really great to get to know you in some of those fit questions. I like your personality, and I think that there might be a place for you here at our firm. I think we should get into the case right now, the case interview. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's do it.
Great. So, your client, Critical Transportation, CT, provides logistical support for the rail industry on the west coast of the United States. Due to the recent Panama Canal expansion, CT is expecting a shift in rail volume to the East Coast once the expanded canal opens in early 2016. CT has retained our firm's services to determine if it should make the investment to expand its business to the East Coast.
Got it. So our client is CT, and his main business is a rail business, right?
Mhm.
Am I getting it correct?
Right, like a
Okay,
railroad,
and
yes.
railroad, railroad business. And at this moment, they're running along the West Coast, and they're considering whether to expand to East Coast or not, depending on the canal progress.
Right, exactly.
Got it, got it. And before we dive into the case, I think I have some clarifying questions to make
Mhm.
sure we know where we are at this moment. So what? So about the railroad business, I'm not quite familiar with this industry. So what's their main business model? How they make the money?
Right. So this business model, CT, they provide rail transportation services from major port locations on the West Coast to distribution centers all over the Western US. So like for example, Los Angeles or San Francisco or Seattle, they provide rail transportation services to say, Arizona or Nevada or Idaho or something. And so once cargo is loaded, completed by port personnel, they transport via rail to a final location where it is unloaded by their client. So CT does not provide any additional services.
So
Yeah,
no last mile delivery, just from one one center to another center.
right. So port location in the West Coast to distribution centers in the Western US.
From port locations to distribution centers. Got it. And about the canal, and we were talking about, do we have more detailed information about that, and why they're they're what I mean, why they're interested in the canal, the progress. So if the canal successfully developed, how would the canal help them uh to start business on the East Coast?
Right. So this would over just all. So the canal will open in early 2016. Right now it's 2015. Let me make that clear. Early 16. So right now the way to get goods to say the East Coast, United States is ports. Ships would drop their supply off on the West Coast, like you say Los Angeles, SF Bay Area, and then by rail those goods would move across the United States from the west to the east. However, because the Panama Canal has expanded in its throughput or ability to it expanded, that means more ships will not go to Los Angeles or Seattle, or whatever. They will instead go through the Panama Canal to reach the East Coast, say like New York or Miami. So therefore, it reduces the need for rail. It would reduce the need for rail industry services in the West Coast because many ships will bypass the rail industry in the West Coast to use services in the East Coast instead. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. That explains a lot. So before, I mean, in the past, our client CT, do they just want to make it clear? Do they transport stuff from West Coast to East Coast, or only among West area?
Right. So all over the Western United States. So they'll transport from
Then
major port, right,
yeah,
from major port locations of the West Coast to distribution centers all over the Western US. So once it gets to a distribution center,
so
the other services handle it. That's not CT's business anymore.
I see. So they never reach out to East Coast ever before.
Right. They just get it to their distribution centers in the West Coast, and then from there, um, they let it go.
Got it, got it. I think I got it. I think I get all the information I need. Can I take a moment to structure my thoughts?
Yes, please.
Great. I think I have a structure to solve our clients' problems.
Mhm.
So I would like to break this problem down into three buckets. So one is consider the financial factors, and the second is thinking about how to achieve it, about operational and non-financial factors within the second bucket, and finally, let's talk about some risks and and something maybe outlier event because given this is such a big commitment. So within the first bucket about the financial factors, want to think about the revenue,
Mhm.
cost, and investment payback period. And within the first sub bucket about the returns, we want to compare if we expand to the East Coast. We want to compare like two uh compare whether like option one is expand to the East Coast, the other option is we stay as where we are at this moment. So let's we can start from the revenue factors first. This is very important, and then the second is about the cost. So about the cost, I mean the operational cost. So if we expand to the East Coast, there will be increasing size of the operational team and also increasing G&A and so sort of things we need to consider. And finally, about the payback period. Uh, so if we don't expand to the East Coast, then there's no extra investment. But if we invest to expand to the East Coast, so we want to know what's our budget and how we want to expand to the East Coast and how long consider to increase the revenue and the profit, how long will that cover our investments? And then moving on to the second bucket. So it's about consider all the kinds of the non-financial factors, especially how we gonna achieve to expand to East Coast. So there are basically three ways. So one is we start our own team, operation and develop all the operation that under our full control along the East Coast. And the second is we can looking for an M&A option to see is there any identity they want to sell their operation branch along the East Coast. And third is we can looking for cooperations to find some more established players. I mean, just like us, we only operate along the West Coast. Someone only operate on the East Coast, then we can probably become a good match. And so we help them deal with the West Coast. And if in the third scenario, there will be not too many or very little initial investment. So that would be pretty safe for us to go. And finally, the third bucket is about the risks. I think the biggest risk is about the canal. Maybe the development may be delayed, or maybe suspended, or maybe because of some unexpected factors, international relationship, that canal doesn't be operated as people expected. So if that happens, will our investment and efforts to operate on the East Coast that make sense? So that is a big question mark. So I think that's necessary to do a scenario analysis. So whether the risk that we can bear, and also some other operational risk. Can we handle the two different teams? Can we finally deliver what we expect? So those are the things that we also want to consider as well. So I think the back to what is the most important. I think the first thing is about the revenue and the market size. So whether we should expand to East Coast. How do you like the structure? And
Right, right. I think that's great. So I like where you're going with the revenue and costs. I actually have some information about that. So our client, they're chiefly concerned about the profit margins in the East Coast market after its entry. So I'm going to give you some information. And could you, with this information, calculate what our client's profit margins should be in the East Coast? Let me give you this. Great. You should see it now, right? Great. So so what would the profit margin be for our client in the East Coast?
Yeah, thank you for sharing the data. I think I see two charts there. The first is initial market analysis for 2015 along the East Coast. And the second chart is the total market revenue. Great. So among the first chart, and I see there are three players over there. And the first one have 40% market share, 35% market share, third one has 35% market share. And on the second chart, I think the most important information is we can see the market growing gradually at around 5% every year. So it's growing steadily. So this is so in short, I think there are two important applications we got here. So one is market is growing, but not growing crazily, growing steadily. But I'm not sure. But we need to figure out after the canal was developed. So after 2016, will that growing crazily? If that growing crazily, then that make much more sense for us to invest. But for now, it's growing steadily. And the second implication is there are three big players already in there. They're very established. They catch up almost 100% of the market share.
Right. So let me
Yeah.
just jump in for a second, Ella. Yeah, those are great takeaways, but let's take a step back and just remember to answer the question. So, what would CT's profit margins be in the East Coast? What should their profit margins be in East Coast given these three comparable competitors in the East Coast?
Yeah, do absolutely. So thinking about our profit margin,
Hmm.
mm, I mean, given there are already three established player, what market share do we expect to take from CT
Right.
estimation?
Right. So market share aside, I see where you're going because the current three competitors have 100%. Given any, even if we get 1% market share or 75% market share, could you what do you think the profit margin would be given what we have in the exhibit? Just like so market share aside, what would profit margin be for our client, for any company in this market?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So so for company A, it got 40% market share, and then the
Hmm.
revenue is 600 and minus the total cost. So the the margin is around 50%, a little bit
Right. Also,
less than
just to make sure,
40%, 50%.
right? Where'd you get 600 million?
Yeah,
40%
600 million. Yeah,
right?
600
40%,
million.
right? 40% market share of of $1 billion, 40% market
Yes,
share,
yeah, 40%.
400, right? Yeah.
It's 400. It's uh, thank you, thank you for pointing that
Right.
out. It's
Right. Okay, let's keep going.
I'm thinking about its competitors. Sorry. So yeah, it's 400 million revenue, and the total cost is uh 320. So the market the profit margin is 20%.
Hmm.
So and about company B is 350 million, and the total cost is 280 million, and the the margin is also 20%. And about third company is also 20%. So all the three players, the profit margin regarding their size, they're stated at 20%. So
Right.
it's reasonable for us to estimate whatever market share we're gonna get. The margin will be 20%. So which is pretty profitable.
Great. Great. Okay. So where do you want to go next? We have our profit margin for the East Coast.
Yeah, we got the profit margin for the East Coast, and do we have any data on what's our current profit margin and how much market share we probably will get?
Great.
And
Exactly. Oh,
yeah, and yeah,
great. Perfect. So our internal analysts believe that CT can only capture 10% of the East Coast market upon entry in the first year. So the West Coast market size currently is $2 billion, and 25% of that market is expected to shift to the East Coast after the canal opens in 2016. So the initial investment to begin operations on the East Coast would be approximately $450 million. And based upon this information, when would CT break even? And you could ignore time value of money and assume no growth.
got it. And about the so just make sure I got all the information. So it's a 10%, expect 10% market share in the first year. What about in the coming years?
Right.
Growing
You could assume no growth, 10% each year.
every year. So the first year is 10%, the second year is 20%. Am I understanding correctly?
Oh no, 10% market share in each year. First year, second year, third year, 10% each year.
I see. We got 10% in the first year and we keep it
Yeah,
steadily.
assume no growth.
Got it. So we assume we got 10% market share and initial investment 450 and 25% of 2 billion West Coast market will ship to the
Mhm.
East port. So and and is there any market growth should we expect except for 25% shifting from west to east?
Nope, no, just assume no growth across the board. So yeah,
Okay,
it'll
got it.
remain right.
So at this moment, the market size is 1,000 million, which is 1 billion at
Yep.
this moment on the East Coast. And then after the West Coast, shifting. So there will be a 1.5 billion, the total
Mhm.
market size on the East Coast. And for us is only get 10%, so which is 150 million. And 150
Mhm.
million, we got the profit consider the 20% margin, then we got 30 million every year. And it's 450 initial investment. So the break even period is 15 years. So it is pretty significant amount time.
Okay.
It takes
Great.
15 years to break even. So yeah,
Okay.
and so now we already know the initial investment, and we know it takes 15 years to break even. Maybe we might want to consider, is it make sense to cooperate with other players, or maybe consider M&A, and yeah, so
Right.
that may be things that we want to consider.
Right, right. So that's a great point. So moving from that, so given that it would take, 15 years to recoup initial costs unless CT could gain a larger market share, what are some other recommendations? You mentioned a few, but what are some recommendations for CT to increase profitability in the East Coast after the Panama Canal expansion?
Great. Suppose Panama Canal develops successfully. Uh, so what are other options that we can increase the profitability of city? I think there are
Do you
three
want do you
ways.
want to take do you want to take a second, Ellen, just to come up with a couple?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
for.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah. Just take like 30, 60 seconds.
Yeah, I think I got three ideas to increase our profit, to potentially increase our profitability. So the first one is we move quickly. Given given there are such a substantial market size
Hmm.
increase from it increased 50% of the existing market. So from 1 billion to 1.5 billion. So it will also be very challenging for other competitors along the East Coast. They also need to expand and invest to capture the increasing market size. So I think there are open window for us to quickly capturing the. So I think from here, even though we don't quite familiar with the East Coast market, but I think there are a chance for us to grow quickly. So we can be more aggressive, and so if we can increase our market share from 10% to maybe even 20% or even 30%, so and that payback period will be shortened extraordinarily. And the second idea is about cooperations. So we know how to run the rail, but we don't know how to run the rail along the East Coast. So maybe we could find a good partner from one of the ABC company, and to let them help us to establish East Coast operations that will save us more times and initiate the investment more smoothly. And on the meantime, and because of the canal development, I think there will be also increasing demand that East Coast, the cargo on the East Coast want to ship to the West Coast. So that is what we are good at. So we have stake on the table. We can start negotiation and start cooperation with East Coast company and build a coast to coast corporations. And that the second idea. And the third is we could think about offer some we might want to consider offer some more value added services like last mile delivery, and then we can gradually steal the customers from their established players. And especially considering more and more people are shopping online, shopping overseas. So increase our value our value added services is also a good thing to consider. Yeah, that's what do you think?
Absolutely. Yeah, those are great. Yeah, to expand aggressively, come up with new services and potential partnerships. Great. Anything else that you would consider in regards to moving to the East Coast, entering the East Coast market? Just anything else?
Anything else to increase the
Yeah,
profitability
just
or anything
anything
else
else.
about the investment?
Anything else to consider? Anything else to consider as we move in regards to this decision to move to the East Coast? Anything else you would consider?
Yeah, absolutely. Anything
Yeah,
else
just come up with some
consider
ideas. Yeah, just come up with some ideas. Well, off the top of your head.
off the top of my head? I think back to the my initial structure is about the risks,
Hmm.
about the canal operation, Panama Canal. Um, I think we have to commit there are increasing complication of the international relationships. So I think we need to take that into consider, and whether the canal will be successfully developed, and after they're developed, how what's the possibility it will be run peacefully and successfully in the coming decades, given this is such a great investment. And if things doesn't go as what we expect, and what would be the best worst scenario, can we take the risk? And so those are things that I think we need to at least to consider to understand the risk beforehand. And after
Absolutely.
that, yeah, and after that, what else? I think it's operation risks. It's always
Mhm.
challenging to develop a new market, and so it would be a good idea to find a strong partner there.
Okay.
Maybe not from our competitors, but also but some people who understand East Coast business would be good.
Okay.
And
Absolutely.
and the third is I think third is our marketing, maybe not marketing, but our sales team. How to build a sales team, because the marketing is shifting, the market is shifting, so it's very crucial for us to build a strong sales team and to get the important clients to make sure they know that we can deliver. That's also a very important thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, great. So John Gray, the CEO of CT, he's expected to walk in the room in about 5 minutes, and he wants to hear our thoughts about the direction his company should take in the future. What is your recommendation?
Yeah, great. Can I take a moment to structure my thoughts? Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I think um so I think after our analysis and all the data we have been explore, I think the recommendation is a strong yes. Yes, we should explore the East Coast opportunities, given there are a huge amount of shrink along the West Coast. It will, if we did nothing, our revenue and the profit will decrease 25% in the next year. And if so, yes, we should invest to expand to the East Coast. But if we can only capture 10% of the market, it will take 15 years to get the it will take our 15 years to cover our investment. So that will be too long and too risky. So to shorten our payback period, I think there are three ways we can consider. So one is we can build up a very aggressive sales teams to capture the major customers. And the second is we want to add some value added services like last mile
Mm.
service, like smart tracking, like all those smart things, and to make our customers' life easier. And the third is we might want to consider to start a strong cooperation partners and to make sure our operation along the East Coast smoothly. And finally, there are also risks, especially about the international relations, and we want to consider beforehand and to see to maybe do some scenario analysis to see whether we can bear such risks. And finally is about the next step. I think the next step we can start to do some uh, deep market analysis and to see what's our competitors along the East Coast, what's their movement, and to get some more implication and insight from there. Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you.
All right.
Um,
All right. Good job, Ellen. Yeah, that was
yeah.
good. Consider, I'm just writing last note. Consider, okay, great. Can you hear my background, by the way? It's like my sister and my niece are visiting. So, um, great. So what did you think? How did that feel?
Oh,
A little
it's not
rusty.
that bad. Yeah,
Not
it's
bad, yeah.
yeah. I
Okay.
think it's an interesting case and not very conventional. I'm glad you choose that over the burger one. So it's
Mhm.
very interesting and rewarding. And also about the profit margin, yeah, I got stuck that a little bit, and then you remind me. Oh, remember what his question? Yeah, it's you asked
Yeah.
about the profit margin, not the revenue. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, so here, let me share my screen just so
Yeah.
overall, yeah, you did well. Of course there's a lot to improve, but that's we hadn't done one in, like months. So for like I think you did a great job. So let me this. Right. So here's the case. You let me also pull up my notes. Here, let me make this larger. Great. So, pretty much like you did a good job with getting the initial prompt. Um, but largely the issue with the opening was that there were a number of really important like clarifying questions that would be, so you had the business model, which was good. The Panama Canal, it was it's interesting you asked about that. But yeah, it makes sense. Of course, why, but just stuff about like what is the current market that they operate in, what is the possible market with these three other comparable competitors, um, what are the costs associated, like that investment cost that you mentioned in the in your structure, um, the trends in the so pretty much there was just a number of pretty important clarifying questions that would have given further background later on, like these are competitor companies, not quite anyone that we can do partnerships with. Like but nevertheless, yeah, so overall I think the backbone of your opening was strong, with the prompt recap and then some questions, but then yeah, from there your structure was quite good. Oh my gosh, we have some baby action in the background. Um, we have you have your financial revenue cost payback period. And when you did all that, I smiled. This was great. They recognize this. I like that you had some kind of operational like ways to approach the market entry and then some risks as well. So this was largely what they had external like market factors. There were some other stuff like customer regular concerns, but yeah, you had your revenue and costs, and you had some also entry. You had some entry points like joint venture, cooperating with. And so yeah, your structure was largely good. The only issue was that it took you 2.5 minutes, so it's a little bit long. I counted 1420 to 1650. So yeah, it was quite a long structure, and I'm not sure like how much like shorthand you're using, but in the end like the objective was to determine like if it would be possible and make sense. So if it was largely a yes or no, like you gave all this also this like these like great ideas, but a lot of it I think would be saved for like more next steps than would be just the CEO is wondering, hey, yes or no, should we expand? um, but that's not the here nor there. I guess it just comes more with like answering the exact question, which was, hey, yes or no. And then like next steps would be all the things you mentioned, like these risks and these M&A options, and aggressively pursuing a sales team, or aggressive sales team. From there, you did a great job looking at the revenue and the however. But yeah, of course, yeah, just right off the bat, yeah. The entry was what should the profit margins be in the East Coast, and then yeah, you looked at this exhibit and you took this trend. But overall, I just did think like just getting maybe a little bit overwhelmed or something by the exhibit. But if it was just like, hey, the question is profit margin, and with this is 2015 to 2015 and these market shares and comparing them, right? It's easy for me to say, I think, because I've always been like looking at the case the whole time, so I can't really say, oh, I would have just, but yeah, ultimately, um, you would have jumped into the logic of the calculation, which is that, hey, let's check out the other three competitors, what their profit margin is, then calculate and to find 20%. But yeah, overall, like just overall just answering the right question. But other than that, you got there. And then what was great after is that you asked about West Coast, right after the pretty the natural questions like, all right, we have information about the East Coast. Now what about the West Coast? And so I was glad that you kind of went ahead and pushed forward with that. So that was great. Um, and so from this, um, it was great actually. Yeah, the answer is 15 years. 25% of the market shifts, and we have that, and then 10% we have this revenue, profit margin, 450, 15 years. So that was great. This calculation was, there was some nuance to it with, pushing moving these numbers around, but you did great. Anyways, and beyond that, yeah. The only thing that I would kind of say is that in the 20% profit margin, I think at the very end, you said something like, oh, that's quite a high profit margin. And then somewhere over here with the 15 years, you had something like that's a significantly like long time. Um, like just remember the benchmark, because like 15 years, like that could be long or short. You know what I mean? Like for I like some payback periods for some, like if you were to start like a nuclear plant, payback period could be like 50 years, or of course, starting like a software, maybe the payback period is like a year. But like I personally have no like reference of like how long in particular like moving, entering railroad markets are in different, like market entry. So just being careful about like, hey, without a benchmark, I can't just, 15 years is like too much and too little, like of course, I say that right after, the prompt is that it takes many years to recoup initial losses. But that's just what, without a benchmark, it's, 15 years, it could be a lot or a little. So just to be careful about that. And then from there, yeah, from here, taking the pause that, kind of, and so that was good. But once you took the pause, yeah, you did great. It's like for what you said, and along this lines of aggressive expansion of customer base, especially because the other competitors are probably reeling from the increased business as well. So that was good. And then as well to increase the number of services. I don't know what last mile. Maybe what is last mile? I'm not sure.
Oh, it's after you deliver, you got the cargo in the transition center. You
Okay,
can you can get the cargo from the transition center to the final destination.
right. Okay,
That is
okay,
kind of
okay.
the last mile. So which means expand the service range, not
Right. Oh,
only
expand service.
from port to center, but also
Another
from the
layer.
center to the final destination.
Okay, cool. Yeah, yeah. I was just curious. But yeah, overall, yeah, you got increased services and aggressive expansion. Yeah, I think the last one you mentioned was like some joint ventures or right, cooperation and partnerships. You said something like cargo ship East Coast, West Coast. I didn't think that entirely made sense, but the point is, yeah, the point is you came up with some pretty nifty ideas, and like some good reasoning behind them. And then finally, also they had said here after the candidate after the candidate finishes, ask if there's anything further that they would like make us. So I just, this is to test their
I
confidence. Yeah. As a measure to
like
test their
it.
confidence. So
I
I was
like
like, all right, yeah,
I
off the top of
like
your
it.
head,
I
you
like
know.
it. I like it. Yeah.
And then yeah, finally, your conclusion was a strong yes, yes to invest. You had said, so, adding this aggressive sales team, value add services and cooperation. I thought that was great. Um, a huge strength. The reasoning was, yeah, it's a huge strength, 25% decrease, especially if currently, currently the our client has is market leader with 25% market share. So yeah, 25% of 25%. It's a big chunk. And so like, it would have been maybe it would have been strong to like include some of the numbers of like, this is a huge shrink decrease from last year. So if it was a $2 billion market and then I mean 25 is gone and we originally had 25. So maybe it would have been good to like run some numbers, but I that's just my opinion. Overall, yeah. And then the risk, you were pretty committed to this international relationship, Panama Canal, like whether it would go through. I'm not entirely sure if that was You know what I mean? Like I think this case they wrote it as if like, oh, it's a given, you know, Panama Canal's fine. But you know, I thought that was interesting. You know, whether or not there are delays, like, you know, I'm sure you've heard of like, you know what I mean, the high-speed railroad from LA to San Francisco, you know, in
Yeah.
California. It's been delayed by like
Yeah.
15 years and it's costing like
Yeah.
$100 billion more than initial, like, you know, 10
Yeah.
to, you know,
Yeah.
whatever. So I can see that, you know, that's true, but you know, so I'm not sure, but they didn't consider the case. And then next, you know, to consider competitors and do a market analysis. So, anyways, overall, like not bad, but you know, definitely a lot to improve, you know. But for first one in a long time, I thought that you did quite well. So, yeah, basically, you have the muscle memory. So, but you know, and as well, I also have to, you know, give you a break, but we have to work on it. Is that like because this is the first one we've done in so long, like once the case started with the opening and the structure and the first exhibit, I can tell you're still trying to be like, all right, you know, get back into it. But you know, the muscle memory is there. So, you know, it's you know, yeah, well done. I thought it was well done.
So yeah, so overall, if there is one thing you think that is most urgent to improve, which one you think that would be the one?
Um,
Structure?
I I would say gosh, I wrote a couple. I wrote here. Let me share my screen again.
Yeah, if there is
So
one thing that you could, I mean, if there's
yeah,
one thing I could
yeah, I would
improve.
I would say answer the questions. That would be the biggest one because you know that was the one that was tough because without like answering the objective, you know, getting the objective of, you know, what does our client want, which is like a yes or no.
Absolutely,
You had dove really
absolutely,
into, yeah, you dove really into
absolutely.
like, you know, and then as well with the exhibit one with like what is the profit margin, you know, like that would have, you know, you would jump right into that. And then break even was fine. um but then and then yeah, so I'd say that was the biggest ones that like, you know, you have all these thoughts running through your head, but you know, just focus on the objective and the question. So
And I
yeah.
saw your note mention a consistent. What do you mean consistent?
Oh, consistent. Oh, I just remember it was something like you know, that was only the smallest note, and the only reason why I made that note was because you had mentioned in the brainstorm to have um brainstorm something with ABC companies, but then and then later on you had said just strong partners not with ABC. Anyways, I was just a little bit confused there. This is
Oh, I
like
see.
the
I
very
see. Got it.
smallest
Got it.
point. Yeah, something about like partnerships with ABC companies while they are competitors. And then so yeah, that was just like,
Got
wait,
it.
didn't you just say so, you know, but I wouldn't be too hard on yourself for that. But yeah, overall,
Yeah.
just more practice. Once the main kind of thing, which is that like, you know, a very
Answer the
clear idea of,
question. Yeah.
yeah, answer the question. Get first know like what is the question I'm answering, and then answer it, you know. Um, so yeah, like very targeted. Yeah. Other than that, yeah, I
That's
think
it.
this is well. You know, what do you think?
I think overall is better than I expect because I
Yeah.
haven't been practicing for a while, and that's one thing. And the other thing is, I haven't been speaking English for a while. Yeah,
Oh yeah. Wait, what did you speak
yeah,
in? Oh well, you just spoke to your husband in Tokyo.
yeah. I spoke,
Um,
but yeah, in I speak Chinese.
yeah,
Well,
of course.
if I don't work, so I almost speak Chinese.
Hmm.
And so yeah, so I was a little bit how concerned about my speaking expression, how whether I can express myself clearly. And I think yeah, overall it's not that bad. And
Yeah. Well, I shouldn't, you know, I shouldn't, you know, you weren't, of course you weren't perfect, like, you know, I mean, like you weren't like, you know, like a book, you know what I mean? But like there was at one point you said something like, oh, we should improve, you know, our client, kind of our services, and you know, we should do this, and we should also have more smart things. I'm like, all right, smart things. I don't know by that, like you know, like I don't know, like smart, you know what I mean? Like, so anyways, but yeah, I think you should, you know, I personally didn't, you know, like as you say it now, like of course, you know, like from, you know, back whenever when. Anyways, I know what you mean. Yeah, like you're exact like you're not like from not speaking English for like a month or so. I could now that you say it, I can hear it, but like from without kind of giving the I didn't notice. I was like, oh, Ellen's just talking. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I think another thing is another good thing is I think timing is it's about okay. It's not
Yeah.
too long. It's pretty concise. It's pretty straightforward, and yeah,
Yeah. So I wish I wrote that down too, but you started the structure at 1420. Well, my clock 1420. And so I assume that the case started at like 13. So we started at 13 and we ended at about 38 or so, 36, 38. So what is that? Like 25 minutes, 25, 30 minutes. Yeah, maybe not 38, but yeah,
that's
20,
great.
25, 30 minutes. Yeah.
Hmm.
So
That's
yeah,
about the
so
time. Yeah,
yeah, this is good.
great.
I'm glad I gave you this one instead of like the really like, well, not now looking at it, the sandwich shop isn't actually that bad either. I mean, it was like an M&A case, but this one with a little bit more nuance, so
Yeah,
but yeah,
yeah.
just overall, yeah, good job. Just yeah, with more
Thank you
clarifying
so much,
questions.
Jason.
Yeah, yeah, no, no, this is overall, yeah, just you have the bare bones, but of course it is just bare bones, so we'll need to do more practice. But yeah, I think it'll be good. So
So, what's your plan for the coming week?
um more job applications. I think yeah,
Definitely.
I
Hmm.
think this is the time for me to aggressively look for a job. It's just that like it's just on the face of it, it's just I am just such a maybe I should give myself more credit, but it's just I'm just such a not a great um um a candidate for like those really competitive consulting jobs right now. I'm just not like I haven't worked in over a year and and it's just like I like frankly I do think I would do fine in the job, but it's just I would not
Yeah, definitely.
it would just be
It's
so much of a hurdle to and instead of like
yeah,
getting some actual strong work experience before
yeah,
and doing this later down the road. But
yeah.
you know
Understand. Yeah.
yeah, but
So
like luckily.
remember, yeah, remember I shared with you the experience of my high school classmate, and she has been trying to break into the consulting. I think she really targeted for consulting industry, and at the beginning, and she started with a technician from a small tech company, and then it's only about 3 to 6 months, and then she jumped to the consulting company.
Hmm.
I think during the period, I believe she must be looking really hard for the consulting position.
Hmm.
Otherwise, she cannot get it so quickly. Mm.
Absolutely. Okay. Okay. Yeah,
Great.
because it's like what they say, and no one becomes an astronaut by accident. You know what I mean? So it's like these consulting jobs, these like super competitive, high paying, high impact jobs aren't just gonna land in my lap. So I have to go look for them. But just with the market being bad and just being out of work for so long, it just isn't quite realistic for me right now.
Yeah,
But like definitely someday the MCO package I bought is lifetime. So like, I'm not gonna,
definitely.
yeah, but yeah. Anyways, yeah, good work. Yeah, I do
I'm
have
so
to get
happy
going.
to. Sure,
Yeah,
go ahead. Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
No,
It's so great to catch up with you and practice case with you. It's always good to talk with you.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I'm not like trying to kick you off the Zoom call right now. I do have to go eventually, but I'm not like, but yeah, no, this was really fun. This is brought back a lot of good memories from last year, honestly. Like
Yeah.
it was very pleasant. Like it yeah, like from like however June to September of last year, just doing this with you. It's very fun. Yeah, very
So yeah,
but
take care and see you
okay.
next week.
Yeah, keep in touch. Yeah, I'll keep you updated if there's any news about any, offer or anything.
Sure.
I
Great.
wouldn't, yeah, you know what? Yeah, crossing those bridges when we get to it, it's
Yeah,
nothing now until there's anything signed or offered. So, you know,
of course.
I'll just
Yeah.
keep you updated.
Take care.
All right.
Yeah.
Bye, Ellen. Happy New Year.
Have a good weekend. Happy New Year.
Bye.